All right, everybody. I believe we're about ready to get started, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm gonna hand it over to Tara and enjoy the introduction.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Evolutionary Salon that we've been partaking in since March 2021 as cohort 1 of the Design Science Studio, an initiative of Buckminster Fuller Institute and the wonderful Habitual Studio, spearheaded and powered by Roxy Shorhazi. Shout out to you, my sister. It has been an incredible year and a half. As the pandemic came down and as the lockdowns came in, one of the greatest gifts that we were given as an artistic community was this community, this offering. Why, you might ask? If we close our eyes for a minute and we are able to hear the space that surrounds us, we realize that every living being is part of an overall system that functions, breathes, exists over one beating heart. What the design science community has given us over the last year and a half, as we got engulfed by lockdowns and into isolation, is a sense of what we in Hindi call seva, service, being in complete, selfless, unconditional sense of giving as a community. So today, to kickstart this year and a half circumference and showcase some of our works, as we dive into the salon and as we welcome the next cohort, I wanted to share with you a guided experience that comes from a lot of our heartbeats, a lot of our voices, sounds that we have gathered across Montreal, India, California, even Nunavut. And I invite you to this journey of becoming an evolutionary creator yourself. We realized on July 29th, not long ago, quite a few days just past, that we have overshot all the regenerative resources that the earth had to give us for this year. As Earth Overshoot Day came and went, our lives continued, and so did our demands. However, the sound that you hear is the sound of the earth humming, captured by Voyager in a NASA-led recording in 2017 that tells us that the earth is alive, she exists, and regenerates every single day. As earth regenerates, so do our bodies, with the life forces that she gives us, like water. The sound that you are about to hear is the sound of water that flows through Quebec, collects and gathers through the rest of Canada. And as it merges, you hear the sounds of water coming in from India, from Japan, from California. These are the life forces that give the lifeblood to the birds and the sounds that we find and present to you today. The sounds of the Muse from Nunavut, way up north in Canada, merge seamlessly with the cardinals and the koels from India, migratory, immigrant, collective, community. Just like our voices as they come together, a layer upon a time. Acoustic ecologies are funny things. They affect us all. Every time an object moves in space, its energy creates waves and vibrations that affect our energies. Those energies affect our emotions. Our emotions affect our intentions. Our intentions affect our perspectives, our unique points of view. that foster the way we think, the way we communicate, express, the way we create. So as we gather today in this community, might we ask ourselves the question, how do we create a community that creates a purpose for ourselves, for you and for I, in a way that restores, regenerates, renews, and creates the resilience we need as we move into August and the days thereafter. At this moment, wherever you are sitting in your life, I invite you to test the acoustic ecology and the regenerative forces that surround you, that allow you to become a creator of purpose, a creator of regeneration. When we talk about the resources that we have lost and the resources that we need to regain, I invite you to close your eyes and vibrate in the way that our bodies know how, and gain the resource that we all have in the here and now, in our abilities. With every life breath that we receive from the universe, whether we call it a god or a force of nature, we receive what we call pran, life forces. With every inhalation, we drive in a resource that is given to us by nature in a spirit of mutual reciprocity, in savor. And with every exhalation, we release the service, the intention that we put out into the world. These intentions have emotional outcomes and they affect the way we show up in the world. So I invite you to close your eyes for a moment. Find the breath that lives within you. And just for a second, observe the tone of your own breath. Is it sharp? Is it quiet? And with every exhalation, is the sound loud? Do you hear it in the left or right side of your brain? Does it calibrate and sit with you, centering you in your entirety? As we listen to the sound of the earth vibrating at 60 beats per minute right now, we have just endured and experienced and received the natural resources that the earth gives us to restore the human functioning to its ideal state of restoration. A resource that we all have. And as we listen to the sounds that evolve, we listen to the root notes in frequencies that activate that part of the human brain, that exhibit and allow our oxytocin, our serotonin, our dopamine to release. Welcome to the universe, the life force that flows within you. And with this, I invite you to a reading of something that has united our community and has allowed us to create the regenerative frameworks to create a collective purpose. Regenerative frameworks to create your purpose. Create your purpose, where every story seeds a culture of inclusion, where every design sparks human and environment-centered change. Where our greatest challenges are met as catalysts for new evolutions. Where we seek empathic learning and adaptation in shaping all transformation. Where we reimagine equitable expressions of productivity, prosperity, and development. Where we build safe and nurturing spaces for all ecosystems to bloom. Where worldviews of profit redefine themselves as ambitions of health for all. Where we value imaginations that explore new relationships between urban and natural worlds. Where we embrace compassionate listening and dialogue to re-envision our planet, our home, through one another's eyes. Where we ask how we can recreate with renewed courage and care for all at the speed of change. Where we commit to cultivating and nurturing environments of regeneration and planetary good. Where we commit to creating with purpose. It is with this invocation I invite you to our community to create purposefully with us, to bring your voices, your expressions, and regenerate and offer in savor, in unselfish giving to the generations that follow. It is my deep, deep pleasure to introduce you to the people who have seeded this vision. With gratitude to Amanda Joy and Faith, and in complete awe and admiration, and inspired relentlessly by my sister Roxy and the courage of Nico. From 144 members of Cohort 1, we welcome you to the Evolutionary Salon and to creating your purpose and designing your own regenerative frameworks. Thanks to the DSS, I will be sharing later what this project has evolved and inviting you to a guided experience and facilitation. But for now, welcome to our world.
That was so beautiful. What a beautiful way to kick us off. We're so grateful to have everyone here together today for the Revolutionary Salon.
It's an exciting one. It's exciting because this is the first event that represents a transition between the first cohort that we showcased and premiered after 7 months of hard work past March, and that is now leaning into the second one, cohort 2, that will start next September. And so this is going to be an opportunity for you to see some of the work that was done last year and some of what's coming. And hopefully some of you are already thinking about applying or have already applied and are getting excited about what's coming.
We're so delighted to have you here today and to share with you some of the creations and some of the art and some of the magic that we created in the last cohort, and really explore with you what can be created in the future. Yeah, please hold on to your seats today. It's going to be really fun. And thank you again, Tara, for bringing us through an experience of what this work is like. And to kick us off into the next kind of wave of where we're going, I will hand it over to our troubadour, recreacionista, Jurgis, to introduce the beautiful, brilliant Shelley.
Hey, lovelies, how are we all doing today? How are you feeling? You feeling good? Feeling good? Feeling good? Just want to check in with all of you. Before we start this lovely event today, today is a day of transitions. Today is a day where we begin to consider passing the baton off to somebody else. And when we talk about passing the baton, we're talking not only about work relationships. We're not talking not only about a way of doing things. We're not talking solely about beliefs or knowledge we have gathered or experiences which we are going to pass on to other people. We're also talking about a way of doing things. And a way of doing things is very much defined also as a culture. And I would like to believe that over the past year and a half, we have developed a very specific culture here, a culture where there is love, where there is consideration, where there is curiosity, where there is wanton random creativity, a culture where there is there's a desire to share and there's a desire to listen. So I'm going to ask everybody on this call to make it known that these are the things that drive us here in this first cohort, and those are the things that we wish to pass on to others. So can I ask you all to put in the chat one word, ask just one word that defines the culture, or one of those key factors that you believe define the culture that we have developed here over the past year and a half. Inclusive, generosity, waving, resilience, connected, we are connected indeed, ecological sanity, selfless love, empathetic, oh that's so beautiful, it's almost poetic. What else do we have? Evolutionary, someone would say re-evolutionary indeed, and for sure, is that it? Triagonal, of course, that was Stroopy. Who else would put a word like triagonal to describe a culture or something more? It's beautiful. I really value our ability to have fun and to trust and to enlighten one another. And one of the people that we are going to be having on stage today is also a light worker. I would say she's more of a light warrior, a person who uses her personal creativity to awaken spirituality in human beings, to open eyes, to bring about change. So ladies and gentlemen, with no more delay, I would like to give the stage right now to the beautiful and exceptional Shelley Bruce. Shelley, are you with us?
I am here. How are you?
We're doing good. I've heard that you have a poem for us today, is that right?
I absolutely do, and I so look forward to sharing it.
All right, Shelley.
Thank you all so much. Well, before I speak, I just always like to give honor to the spirits and the guides and the ancestors. I am from Los Angeles, which is also known as Chumash, Tongva, and Achamin lands, among others. I am of ancestors of Jamaican, American, and Black American descent. And as I am in my Bob Marley t-shirt and in front of my Assata Shakur painting, it always is important to me to acknowledge that I often represent the African and the Black diaspora and all of the regeneration and reimagination that has made me, that I come from. And I was moved to tears by Tara this morning, and it is such an inspiration to know that a community like this exists, to remind us of the importance of regeneration, that sometimes when we lose hope, we are reminded that the earth is humming and that she constantly rebirths herself every single day, and so can we. And so can we create a culture like that. So without further ado, the poem I have to share with you all today is called Light Seed. And Light Seed is a piece that I wrote for a revolutionary time such as this, to remind us that we need cohorts and love armies and light seeds to show the world a new way and help everyone remember that there is something more for us. So here is this poem. It was time to be raised from the dead. So I became the full moon at midnight, the only light in darkness. You lost, so my skies kissed your mornings. Now earth cannot be severed from me. You famished. My soul tree creates forests to feed all mouths that are starving. You forgot home. I sun blinding gold, tsunami wave, tornado blue, and you again worshipped Orisha in we. Then they, rubber bullets, skull crack, tear gassed our hearts. So we, veteran herd, halt all pollutants, standing rock pipeline planning. Depressed blade nears wrist vein. I, the very breath that pushed suicide away. They noose, brutalize, murder, incarcerate our fathers. My brown rhythm haunts them in every beautiful song they'll ever sing. Apocalypse becomes hopeless mind of the masses. I am the one who knocks them awake, as if child slaves had not sewn our imported clothing, as if white hood endorsed coward had not become temporary patriot leader, as if rainforest not burnt to stinking ash and sewage dumped in our oceans so fast food steak could be $5 for your eating, as if murderous men in a spiritual coma had not built this perceived debt we call a democracy, as if we had an option to be anything but a love army. I know it sometimes feels like you're the only one who survived, with a million stories scribed in native tongue behind your eye, as if we could possibly remain small, as if measureless me might muster the words I can't, as if our ancestors didn't strive and survive so that we could be. We occupy in Los Angeles, Mexican soil. Nos sentamos en tierras indígenas. And their people have often said, they tried to bury us, but forgot we were seeds. Goddess sister reminds, all you must do is believe. And we've built everything ever in existence on this thought to word to action. Life is action. Life is a dare at how legendary you could be. So I became the full moon at midnight. It is time to be raised from our dead. For any darkness can be canceled by one light seed. Ashe. Much love to you all, light seeds. Thank you.
I invite you all to unmute and share your gratitude. Thank you, Shelley.
Woohoo, thank you.
Thank you, Shelley.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for your light. You know, it's good to be a light when you surround yourself with chaos and, you know, the darkness that people themselves through. Because when you can find yourself standing next to people who are darkened, when you light your candle inside, then they'll be able to see the light. You'll be the light bearer.
That was so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Cody. And thank you, Shelley. That brought me to tears multiple times.
Yeah, same here. Brought me to tears. So much light. Thanks for the reminder.
I am so excited to. Hey, you want to go or you want me to go? Yeah? Okay. You gotta guess, my dear. I'm going to share first a hello. My name is Roxy, and I am the director and architect of the Design Science Studio. I am but one of many incredible people who pour their heart and soul into this work. And I'm going to share, I'll try to keep it quick because we're a little behind on time, but I'm going to share an important talk that kind of grounds us into why we're doing this work, why the studio exists, and why this community has formed around a purpose that is collectively created through the sum of our parts and would be impossible without all of amazing humans collaborating together. Because the future is always first an idea, and every revolution starts with a story. And the beautiful thing about this time that we're in is that when we look back, we can really feel the truth of that. How the stories that have woven and tested through the sands of time, even before our modern, well before our modern days and our modern language, the stories, the poems, the communities that were able to really transform through the sands of time, stories really helped kind of bridge them together. And when we look at our current reality, we recognize that our spaces architect our mind. What we design, what we have designed as humanity has designed us back. Even the studio, we've designed a container and it's designed us back. We have experienced this. And when we move, like Jurgis is tuning in from Tayrona right now, and I recently moved to the forest, and it's a completely different experience, and I recognize the privilege in that. But we have an opportunity in our spaces, in our minds, in our communities, in our world, to just recognize how some of our tools have in turn designed us. As we sit connected on Zoom and through our technology, there is an opportunity to utilize that opportunity. And so that's what ontological design is all about. And ontological design is one of the pillars of what we think about. It's kind of the most basic way to think about it is all about designing for behavior change. So whenever we are able to broaden our perspectives and see beyond our own, our behaviors change. And when we're designing for states of being, like Tara just brought us into a state of presence, a state of reflection. Shelley brought us into a state of revolution, into a state of recognizing where we're at. Jurgis brings our hearts and sparkles. We're in it, we're living it right now. And that's why we've created the studio, because we recognize that spaces, that art, that experiences really help us to learn and grow together and expand beyond who we are as individuals, because it takes a lot to grow, and this world is complicated, and we are in a really complicated moment in time. And the studio was created as an educational incubator for art. We are in the middle of a movement, and we exist to scaffold the visioning of the regenerative movement, of movement that is rooted deeply in moving from me to we, from towards adaptation and complexity, and learning from living systems and the interdependence that fuels life. The studio was created for building the capacity of the creative community to be those visionaries, because we need to help translate the complexity and to pull us towards a vision of what's possible and make it really clear what it is that we're moving towards. And history, right? It shows us the power of a new narrative. You might have heard us say, let's really empower art that can change history. And when we look back, we can see from the gay rights movement to Black Lives Matter, we have seen and witnessed and felt the power of art to create measurable change. Later today, we'll hear from Kelly Skye, the revolutionary, and also worked for the Center of the Force Majeure. Center of the Force Majeure is also a wonderful example. If you all aren't familiar, they're based in Santa Cruz. Some of their work, doing speculative design, creating art, helped people broaden their perspectives beyond what they thought was possible, beyond even what they thought was probable, and invoked a new way of exploring what was potentially a reality that we could move towards. And some of those things have now sparked scientific research that then sparked policy changes, and when we thought was not possible. But what do we need to do that? We get to shift from the me to the we. We get to recognize that there is more than enough for everyone. This community, maybe there's overlapping projects and initiatives. That's amazing. We need more of that. We need more creators, creativity in the world that is helping to be a bridge, your unique bridge for what you see is possible in this work. And the beginning of every movement happens when someone talks about it. And the more voices, the more that we are able to kind of thread and get rid of the blind spots and come at them with a deep care and there's this thing that Tom Chioff always says. He says, I love learning when I'm wrong. Because when you find out that you failed, it's not a bad thing. It just means that we can do better. And when we're in community and we're able to move towards something bigger than ourselves, then it helps us pull ourselves towards that, build our capacity. This is all about building capacity, helping create structures and resourcing each other to really be able to get there. And the story, right? The story that we've been talking about, this cultural shift, we are in a deep cultural shift. Some of these other really powerful examples that I mentioned before, other ones are the designated driver story. There was no such thing as a designated driver, and then they made a film about it. And then a designated driver became a real life thing, and it saved thousands and thousands and thousands of people's lives. It's a film. And as we're looking at other important moments in history, the gay rights movement, largely transforming people's realities and perspectives because of art and coming together in community. And I mentioned the Center for the Force Majeure already. And as we kind of move from there into thinking about like, okay, what are other parts of history that have shown us this potential? After World War II, there was this huge boom of sci-fi and these protopian potential futures. It helped us like build bridges beyond what we thought was ever going to be possible in the current status. And those, again, were really pivotal for reimagining and moving forward. And there's a dark side to this too. There's other potential imagined futures that kind of take us into dystopia, right? Cyberpunk and propaganda, and these things are, it's important to look at both sides. Because all these are tools, these are technologies that we can use, depending on how we wield. And Nico recently reminded me of this great example that our DNA is sort of wired for bad news. Like, take us to the African Sahara. We're looking around and like we're focusing on the tiger. We're not focusing on the flowers and the mountain and the forest and the beautiful thing. We're like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Like we are hardwired for bad news. And honestly, we're at a very critical tipping point as a species. Amanda Joy Ravenhill, the the executive director of the Buckminster Fuller Institute, always reminds me and reminds us that we're a keystone species, like beavers. We have the capacity to dramatically change and alter our environment. And we can do that in the way that we have, not noticing our unintended consequences, or we can radically change the way that we're looking at the potential future and move towards that and quickly build systems together and reorient, which is what we have to do. We'll get to hear from some incredible speakers today, especially Becca Dekini, who will be sharing and really continuing. We're in this moment where we need to stay focused on, we can't go so far that we're not paying attention to what's really happening. But in order to really get to these positive visions of the future and then backcast, we need to really see what is beyond what we think is possible now. And artists are the frontline storytellers. They're uplifting the oppressed, they're translating new solutions, they facilitate deeper understanding and foster empathy building for embodied hope. They help make what's invisible visible. And so then we understand systems in a new way. And this is something that art can express. And when we're talking about bad news, like, it's important to recognize what's up, but like, there are beautiful potential futures that we are not only possibly going towards, but I might dare say that we are committed all the way to figuring it out. Like, we can't lose hope. And that's the last thing. I lost my cat the other day. My mom reminded me, hope is the last thing we need. She came back. She's sick. But we don't need to be hooked on the bad news. We need to see it, and then we have a tool. One of our tools is looking at these protopian futures to help us see beyond what we might think is possible. Because the future is always first an idea, and we need to imagine for it to happen, and we can reimagine these possible futures. And so the Design Science Studio is rooted in the Design Science Decade, which there's a lot of kind of decades of action and the Sustainable Development Goals, and they're all very aligned. We're in a very pivotal moment in time. We have about 10 years, some say maybe less, to really turn the ship around. And what the Design Science Decade frame does is it has kind of reinvigorated Buckminster Fuller's Design Science Decade from the 60s to the 70s and reimagined through our amazing Buckminster Fuller Institute how we might reorient the course of the next 10 years to get to this kind of, if you imagine these in order of, like, right now we're in reconciliation and commitment, moving to a point of restoration and capital transfer, building resilience to come together, regenerating our culture, our planet, celebrating and becoming re-enchanted and really living in the circularity. And that place that we're getting to, it's gonna take time. There's unlearning that we have to do. And there is a new way of moving that we get to do together. And one of the other beautiful tools that we have rooted in this decade of action, this coming together to make the world work for 100% of all life, not just humans and not just some humans, but all life. One of our tools is comprehensive anticipatory design science. Buckminster Fuller said his ideas have gone through a process of emergence by emergency, and they're needed badly enough they'll be accepted. And here we are. It's definitely time. And design science is short for comprehensive anticipatory design science. So we start with the whole. We think ahead. We create intentionally, and we discover through experience. And the more you get into our collective work, as Tara mentioned, the Design Science Studio is a partnership between Heb Ritual, my creative studio, and the Buckminster Fuller Institute. And one of the things the Buckminster Fuller Institute is also really committed to is accelerating the design science revolution. And my work is deeply rooted in how, and my work and Heb Ritual's work at large, how art and experience can catalyze social and systemic change, merge disciplines and help people learn together, transdisciplinary approaches to regenerate our culture and our planet, and empowering art as a pivotal part of that process. And so by weaving art and science and design and using future casting, where are we getting to? And then going back to say, what are the steps that we need to take today? We created the studio. And we're gonna do a whole info session about how the next cohort's gonna be structured, how cohort 1 is gonna keep weaving in. We've all committed to a decade of action together. And even if you don't wanna be in the studio, we have amazing partners and collaborators and mentors, and it's just like the most beautiful, booming community. We're so grateful to be on the train today. And we're experiencing the community part of it already. And the curriculum part of it, it's designed to really give us this embodied education that builds bridges for understanding in systems. So everything is connected to everything else. There are interdependence. There's so many things that we focus on one thing and we don't see the broader whole. And sometimes there's unintended consequences which we're living through. And so the curriculum is designed to empower creativity, to help us learn, to help us deepen in our understanding. And we'll get to go through what some of those key points are in the curriculum in the session in a little bit. and the community, the creative community, and then we're part of a movement. And so we're connected to organizations and initiatives and institutions and thought leaders for mutual support and collective action, because really we're just building a coalition to make it happen. And here we are. We're going to showcase, amplify, fund, scaffold art that changes history. So I will end just to say, we have a choice, and I think we're making it together. And we really appreciate you all being here. And we're going to kick off the rest of the day. And thank you for joining and for believing in what is possible. I'm going to hand it over to Faith, who's going to orient us a little bit.
Thank you, Roxy. Lucky to be together in the same room. It's been quite a couple of years of being siloed in front of our computers alone, and so what a lucky day. I just want to say I'm Faith Flanagan of the Buckminster Fuller Institute. Roxy said it so well. We're launching the second cohort of the Design Science Studio, and that's really based in art that changes history. And how do we do that? We do that through design and really thinking into what the future we want to live into looks like. So with that, today is a beautiful day where we get to celebrate with you all. And I'd love to orient you into the schedule for today. We get to hear from so many beautiful artists and creators. There's quite a few different panels happening. There's workshops. Tara will be leading a workshop in the next minute or so. And we'll be listening to many different talks, music, etc. We'll be on the vision train for most of the day and other workshops and other Zooms. So please do pay attention. We'll be sending through emails with the schedule. If you didn't get the schedule this morning, it's really beautiful and helps orient you through the entire day. And just click on the buttons that take you to the Zoom. If you can't find them, you can go to the With Presence site and go to the Zoom links, and it'll launch you into the next Zoom panel. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Tara, the beautiful Tara, and let her take it away into the next session. Oh, yes. Let me stop this. So Tara, sorry, Tara, 1 second. Tara Baswani is an international acclaimed multidisciplinary performing artist and creator, music composer, and experienced designer. She's also an entertainment director, producer of creating strategic bridges between the worlds of entertainment, enterprise, and civic engagement. She's also an incredible leader and thought leader and builder of Limbus, and incredible thought partner for the Design Science Studio. If I didn't do you justice, Tara, please add to your description.
I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I'm so bashful right now because, I function better when we're doing the work and there's less to talk. But I thank you so much, Faith. I cannot say enough for, again, the community that we have experienced in the last year and a half. So all I'll say about myself is I'm just so happy to be here as a human and as an artist and as a creator. My entire life's work has been defined by one pivotal moment in my life: loss. 21 years ago, I lost my limbs and my physical movement as I broke my back. 21 years later, as 2020 hit and the pandemic broke out across the globe, I lost it yet again with the rare case of menopause. And as I found myself immobile, I found myself with what I consider to be the greatest team in the world, which is obviously my family at Limbus. But as I started to reconcile with what we could do to start being in service of a resilience on a personal level, I also started to reach out for community that was beginning to scale this resilience, this restoration on a global level. Through shared networks, when the call for the Design Science Studio came. It came through the Buckminster Fuller Institute that I was used to following. Again, having known Amanda Joy's work, her legacy, and the work that was continuing through Project Drawdown, through Buckminster Fuller Institute's immense legacy as well. And et voila, we walked in July 2020 into what would become the Design Science Studio's enormous landmark vision. I met Roxy, discovered her virtual studio, met Nico, but also the 144 people who became the connecting points, the constellations that have now started to map the immense impact that Lembas has the absolute honor of taking forward in the world. Make no mistake, the project that I'm about to share, the small facilitation I'm about to share after I share what is involving with the culture design framework that is now becoming part of the design science curriculum, thankfully, and with gratitude to Roxy, that is becoming part of institutes around the world, and an ambitious project that has been incubated, developed, and as of this moment is starting to lay its literally first seeds based on Buckminster Fuller's vision in the city of Montreal. All of this comes together to develop what you see behind me, which is the map points of creative, regenerative, impact movements that we are managing to generate together as one cohort in one way or the other. Having said this, I'm going to dive into who I am, where I come from, and what has created as future ripples with this community. Allow me to share a screen for a quick second. Through the moments of loss in my life, let me check if you're being able to see the screen. Wonderful. Through the moments of my life, there have been a few influences that have given me the courage to dream, to do differently. As I travel the world as a composer, a performing artist, speaking in different languages, trying to connect with global communities, the intention that I wanted to share came from the legacy of my teacher and my mentor, B.K.S. Iyengar, the father of modern yoga, through which I was brought back to life and to my feet. The other visionary that completely influenced and transformed my life was a more humble human with a far greater legacy, the Dalai Lama. We grew up around him with his teachings, and he often talked about the third legacy of a visionary sitting across another part of the world, Buckminster Fuller, the Michelangelo of now, who famously said the following quote. This quote has defined the way I've created as an experienced designer, what it has led to my legacy through the years of designing for Cirque du Soleil, for governments, for agencies, for big brands around the world. But what it eventually led to was this. How do we create a purpose for a world that begins to think about 100% profit for people, for planet, for all living systems of life? In 2013, I started to document a project which began to record habitats, biodiversities, as well as the challenges that faced each and every one of these facets of living systems in the world. Across the globe, as I toured with the project for Cirque. Through Japan, through Mexico, through Turkey, of course, and from my home, from India, from my other shared home, across boundaries in Canada, through the United States, through Europe. Over 365 stories came together in this one map. From 2013 to 2020, we lived with this map, exploring the challenges that required simple solutions. A simple roadmap emerged that laid the foundations of what is now called Lembas, a small agency that is committed to culture and transformation design through artistic, entertainment, and culture design practices. We set a four-course path. Every story had to move a culture. Every design had to spark transformative change. We walked in with a commitment to see every challenge with an eye of optimism in the way Buckminster saw it, and ask ourselves how we could transform that and catalyze it into the innovations that we needed for the world. As futurists, we committed to cultivating sustainable environment and social good. What evolved was a 3-year period. As the scientists, visionary activists like Vandana Shiva dealt with World Social Forums, and at the Climate Change Agreement in 2015, stories like My Kind, which talked about sexual violence, is one of the greatest reasons for girls, for women, for queer communities, for immigrants and queer communities of color. What we came away with was one startling revelation, that as we viewed challenges like violence, gender equity, education, what we understood was that each and every one of these challenges directly influenced what we have now come to understand as the greatest challenge of our lives, which is climate change. When people are not safe, we cannot give the resources that we need. As we evolved, we decided to start inviting different flips, as we call them. We worked across the arts industry, questioning production practices, how to invite artists that we were producing like Yo-Yo Ma, music industry players, different enterprises, different stakeholders, our own practices of developing new instrumentation, architecture, placemaking, even the performing arts, to see how movement could create somatic practices, and how the arts and entertainment industry could become a powerful vehicle for facilitating education, free us from the equity that was required and not being given by educational institutes. And what we came away with was the manifesto that we started today's Salon with. Evolving practices informed by the people, for the people, and for the planet, to create a culture design framework that began to be used by universities, by art spaces, and we decided to look for a home where we could house this for creators, artists, communities, investors, funders. As we walked into the Design Science studio, we realized that we had a resource that could allow us to create transformative change, because as Bucky said, you never change things by fighting the old model, you just got to create a new one. In 2020, along with the Design Science studio and the BFI, Recreators came to life. The project had had its first phase as part of Global Affairs Canada to create a landmark, transformative experience that would get stakeholders between the Indian and Canadian business chambers and consulates to come together and learn how to cooperate, invest their resources, and through participatory engagement experience designs in art events, learn how to bring stakeholders across the world to battle climate change. As we put forward the first digital iteration of this, I started to study Bucky's Dimaxin series, the Dimaxin Maxin. I realized that the Dimaxin house had only had one iteration, but had promised to hold spaces of circular ecological healing and growth, play, environmental STEAM learning, new mediated matter. The maps started to emerge as ecological rewilding responsible experiments for us here in Montreal. And we started to document botanical and ecological education from all around the world, the acoustic ecologies that allowed us restorative soundscapes, not just for human restoration, which was greatly required through the lockdowns, but very importantly, to stimulate plant health. as well as start to document and research what this could look like for the flora that lives in urban spaces. And we asked ourselves, can we come together and create a transformative urban design project that will change the way we think of recreational and art spaces? Recreators is an ongoing series that reimagines recreation, arts, and entertainment spaces as new transformative environments for planetary regeneration. Together, we are creating interactive platforms of purposeful play as instruments for ecological education, ecotech, production innovation, community collaboration, engagement for different enterprises to come together and realign humanity's engagement with built and recreating natural worlds. The Dymaxion houses that we are now envisioning to create house 26 different species for the first build in Montreal through next year, creating Dymaxion series where these 26 species will evolve as environmentally responsible rewildings across Nunavut, Montreal, recreating Arctic ecologies, inviting indigenous traditional wisdom with species like lichen, mosses. In Quebec, we have committed to bringing forward a whole rehosting of trees, plants, all housed with interactive participatory design, which, while we cannot reveal how it will function right now, will invite us to play across age groups and demographics to recreate and rebuild and re-stimulate environments of responsible rewilding through our cities. This is the commitment we are making at COP26 in different alignments this year. And furthermore, and very excitingly, which I'm thrilled to debut today on this so cherished platform, we will be taking forward algae and marine development for oceanic biofuel building through this extraordinary platform that we've all been allowed to create together. As we move forward, I wanted to show you what this can look like, and I see we're exceeding time now. So I leave you with this small thought. As you move forward with your own practices, I leave you with two simple questions for each one of your own creations. As you move forward into the second cohort, be able to share what is the passion that you have and what and how does it fit into your creation. When you walk into the second cohort or meet with us, and if we meet over those shared sessions, I hope that you're able to share not who you are and what your work and your biography is, but what really your passion is, your fear, and your greatest hindrance, so that when you walk into our salons, you come in asking your greatest ask, and at the same time, nurturing one small seed where you can hope to recreate for someone else. A small service, an active saver, with something you can give to someone else. Because what we have managed to do together is be able to go all the way up and help communities, as you are seeing right now, across age groups, where we are getting the indigenous communities, scientists, and ecologies involved to affect every single age group. And build futures that we wish to see together, including scientists who are working with marine predators, wildlife at risk, working with restoration, as well as with play. Because where there is play, there is imagination. And where there is imagination aligned with a small seed to recreate savor, what we have is transformation for planetary health. Thank you for sharing and thank you for participating. And welcome again to the Evolutionary Salons.
Thank you so much, Tara. That was so incredible. Thank you for taking us on that journey and that reflection. We're going to go straight into a great from Amanda Gregory. I want to invite everyone to put on headphones if you have them and reflect on the questions that Tara posed while we go through this experience. Put them in the chat.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Can everyone hear me okay? I have two guests with me who I was hoping to have sound coming through to them, but it seems that there is no sound. I'll record it and I'll play for you guys later. Thank you so much. So today I'm going to share with you about 5 to 7 minutes of music. That is live improvisation where I'm going to emulate echo communication. I want to emulate the communication and navigation of diverse species that use ultrasonic frequencies to determine the distance and size of objects in their environment. I recently participated in a program called the Diverse Intelligences Summer Institute, which spawned a collaboration between myself and marine biologist Sarah Nikšić, whose research is focused on the vocal communication of marine mammals. I'll live generate psychoacoustic rhythmic effects to emulate the ebb and flow of echolocational search and discovery. When dolphins echolocate, they generate an image or a spatial representation of their surroundings. And this piece aims to highlight the connection between this call and response mechanism of humans and other animals and of echolocation. And I invite us to explore echolocation as an analog to our own communication. For example, when human beings engage in verbal conversation, each response includes feedback that can occur in the form of mental imagery, and these physical and emotional processes as information. In this sense, perhaps humans experience an analog to echolocation in which the sounds that we emit evoke auditory responses from others that inform our understanding. This piece uses the emulation of echolocation to build a closer sense of understanding and therefore connection to people and species with perspectives other than our own. So make yourself comfortable. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen and start sharing music in just a moment.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Always beaming us into the stars.
Very much.
Very much. Very much.
It's my honor to be here.
Very much.
I feel like being underwater with whales. Vibrating.
I have been eco-located with my community and the future.
You are understood.
With that, we're gonna transition to the second part of today. The title for this first planetary session is Will We Shift Up or Down? And as we are doing all this work to try to see what the future holds, we constantly ask ourselves this question, and we're constantly in this this balance between facing reality and seeing what's going on, and like how fast ecological collapse is accelerating, and at the same time keeping a tremendous amount of like optimism and joy, because we really believe that we are on time to make a change and to design the future that we really envision, and that is definitely less apocalyptic than the one that we so maybe
We were muted.
Oh. Yeah, so I would say maybe the question shouldn't be will we shift up or down, is when will we shift up? This is the work that we're doing, that we need to do, and we're super thankful that you're all here with us, contributing to this, and hopefully allowing or helping us expand all these messages that you'll receive today and will be shared by some of our incredible and visionary speakers. Speaking of which.
Oh, so excited to introduce our next speaker, one of my dearest friends in the world, and one of the most visionary humans that I have ever known. Okay.
Yes, I would echo that absolutely. Becca Dekini is not only a friend and a sister, but one of the most powerful women that I know personally. She's a visionary, COO, executive producer, program director for over 20 years. Over 20 years experience internationally with operations, production, project management, working in events, business, and the nonprofit sectors. She's also a climate activist, speaker, writer, a DJ, and a content creator, working with the world's best and most talented leaders and projects focused on planetary solutions, indigenous leadership, and earth regeneration. And we not only get the pleasure of hearing from her now, we also get to hear some of her incredible DJ sets later on after, I think, 4:30, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Welcome, Becca. We love you.
We love you.
Thank you, Becca.
Thank you so much. So wonderful to be here with you all, and I'm so proud of my amazing colleagues that are working so hard in the Design Set Studio and BFI to, I guess, create a world that works better for all, and to create these platforms for artists and creators and storytellers and designers, and to come together in community and tell some new stories of what our world can be like in this time of change, in this time of shift in human evolution, and in this time of planetary difficulty, I guess you can say. So I'm just going to talk to you guys for a little while today on a few different topics. And I guess the title of my particular segment is Navigating a Changing World. And I know it's within this bracket of will we shift up or down. And so I'll start with saying I currently live on the unceded ancestral lands of the Coast Miwok peoples, and I'm from the unceded ancestral lands of Australia, the Aboriginal peoples of Australia. I pay my respects to all ancestors and peoples past and present. I actually believe we need to shift up and down at the same time. I don't know if it's one or the other. I see a need for us to rise up to find and apply solutions to our current planetary situation. at the same time as shifting down into adaptation and resilience. And so it's kind of a movement in both directions at once that I feel is called for at this time. As someone that has spent many years, I guess, as a citizen scientist and researcher, and working with a lot of the leaders, speakers, and talent that are focusing on planetary solutions, I really feel called at this time to share messages of reality and also kind of sound a clarion call for people to join the movement, the greatest movement the world has ever seen, which is to come together to protect our Earth and to make changes as a species to come back into right relationship with the Earth, which is actually really an Indigenous perspective of coming back into the web of life. We are living in a changing world, climate change due to carbon emissions, and we're currently experiencing the 6th mass extinction, where we're witnessing over 200 species disappearing from the Earth every day. These are major changes, and there is grief involved in the process of coming to terms with our current reality. We do have a few decades of warming locked in, which will mean for disrupted jet streams and weather patterns, a warmer and wetter world, more fires, more storms, more flooding, and difficulty in growing food in different parts of the world due to changed seasons and weather patterns. We're going to have to use our innovation and creativity to survive. We're going to have to become resilient, and we're going to have to adapt. So what do we do and how do we respond? And what is needed of us now in the face of this crisis? Why did we choose to come here at this time? What is it that is for us to do? I'm watching right now people wake up and face the current climate and biospheric crisis everywhere. You may have noticed it yourself. Particularly, it seems to have ramped up more over the last month. Heat domes and floods and fires will do that. The Global South has been experiencing the climate crisis for some time now, and now it's knocking on the Global North's door. So how will we respond? What is ours to do? I think at this time it calls upon us to come back to the creative and resilient and regenerative species that we truly are. And I can't highlight enough, particularly to this community, the importance of the artist in times of crises. At this point in time when we need to rally humanity to not only face our current situation, we need to be conveying the way forward. We need to be conveying solutions and also showing images, art, and possibilities of what a future world can be like. One where we have adapted to the current changes that are upon us, as well as maybe designed a new world that works in harmony with the planet, where the technosphere is actually built in harmony and in service to the biosphere versus on top of it, extracting from it and killing it, which is our current state. We've known for potentially over 60 years of this moment. We've known what would happen if we kept on emitting carbon at the levels that we have. We have less than 10 years. This particular data visual shows that we have 11 years to keep our temperature under 1.5 degrees. That's not a long amount of time, and particular current policies are stating that we can go up to 2 or 3 degrees warmer than pre-industrial times. The models have already shown that over 1.5 degrees makes it very difficult to grow food. So if we know that this is the current state, and we know that we've got a clock that's ticking, and we know we're still emitting carbon at a rate that's absolutely ridiculous, what is ours to do? What do we do when the systems that be don't shift and change to support life? What do we do when the systems that be, that are human systems, continue to perpetuate ways that degrade and destroy life? Life now and life for the future generations to come. And not only our human species, but our more than human species. And so there is an urgency, and this urgency drives me every day of my life. I wake up with it. It informs every decision that I make. It has meant that I've shifted everything that I do, every single piece of work, every single contribution to the world, in the direction of being in service to our planet. I work for the planet now. And my invitation to all of you is to, at this time, if you haven't fully digested the moment that we sit in and how severe things are, my invitation, even though I know it's scary, is to also face what is, to actually take it inside of yourself and sit with it. Because unless we face what is, we won't know how to solve it. Unless we know what is ahead of us or in front of us, we won't know how to respond to it. And so to fully understand and be with the grief and the collapse and suffering of our world and the loss of our species and the constant warming is actually, I think, to be resilient and to know how to do what the world needs us to do. And once you digest and really take it on, and I know it's easy to look away, I know it's easy not to focus on it, because I don't think psychologically that we're designed to be able to process and digest the potentiality of our own biospheric collapse. Once you actually take that into yourself and make it yours, it will drive you, it will fuel you, it will guide you, and you will work for the planet. And you will shift everything you do, your work, your relationships, and your purpose, to working for the planet. Because truly, I guess the realization is that we are the planet. We are part of the living system of the world. We are her and she is us. So the more that we can actually find ourselves back in right relationship with her, the more that we can actually feel ourselves becoming organic, the more we can feel how we are just as connected and akin to the tree next to us, the more we will actually come back into our relationship with the world. And so at this time, I guess, out of love for the earth, I call out to all artists, all storytellers, all messengers. Come and tell the story of falling back in love with the earth. Come and tell the story of coming and falling back in love with our world. And remember who we are as a species. Human systems as part of the living systems of the world, in service to, as stewards of, protectors, the protector species that once again are here to regenerate and be that keystone species we can be, to look after the ecosystems around us. And you as artists and creators are here at this important time to tell stories of a new kind of world, of a new kind of way. And so I invite you, whatever you're doing with your art, with your expression, with your work in the world, how can you tell stories that not only convey love and reverence for the species that are still here and the ecosystems that still thrive? How can you also tell stories that convey the current crisis we're in to propel people to act, to propel systems to change, to propel leaders to move in the direction of ensuring that we have systems that work for all of life? And so I just want to close with a little snippet from a dear friend and mentor of mine about telling better stories in this time of crisis. Damon Gameau.
So what world could we build together then, if we incentivised and funded better stories? Meaningful stories about our interconnected relationship with the living world, or empowering stories about individuals or communities who are restoring entire ecosystems. Stories of regeneration. For too long, we've assaulted people with a barrage of graphs, data, and lifeless statistics. But a new approach is required. An old approach that involves telling better stories aimed directly at the heart. Which means that the role of the storyteller has never been more important. The real purpose of the artist, the poet, the songwriter, the author, or the filmmaker is to create and shape culture. That culture then determines what survives or dies. So in this moment, we need a revived culture with a radical empathy for the living world. And if our storytellers can't find the way, then the way cannot be found.
Thank you so much. I'll hand back over to you, Roxy.
Becca, thank you very much. That was very lovely. Just a brief reminder to everybody who is either part of the DSS or considering becoming a part of the DSS, or just flirting with us, or just affiliating loosely, in a non-monogamous way. Everything works. It is very important to know that amongst us, you will never be alone in your eco-anxiety. You will always find somebody who understands how distraught you feel and how uncomfortable you feel with the current situation. But more than that, you will find people like Becca, like Tara, like Roxy, like myself a little bit, who are also doing things and who will give you hope, and then you will feel that you're not alone, and you're not all by yourself in this sensation where sometimes you might feel that you're amongst people who look at you like you're crazy. Because here, being eco-anxious and doing something about it is the norm in this space right here. And the next person we are going to invite onto the stage is no exception.
Tony, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Greetings from Ibiza.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, Tony. I'm hugging you from the other side of the planet.
Exactly. It's an honor to be here. And thank you for including me, Roxy, and Nico, and the whole Design Science Studio family, and all the artists and the creatives. You guys are such an inspiration. And it's really an honor for Future of Cities to be partnered with you guys in this mission to co-create a regenerative future and to embark and accelerate the Regenaissance.
It's very special to have you here, especially because Design Science Studio is for us is the visionary branch of what we do, but we're working on more projects, especially related to spaces and experiences, and we really believe that. We're Roxy was saying this morning about ontological design and how spaces architect the mind, and we really believe that by redesigning the spaces that we live in and creating more opportunities and more connections for people to engage and to live in neighborhoods where they can share and to have fruit trees on the streets and to really rethink how we approach our living in our environment, we can change who we are and how we feel and how we think. And I think that's why it's so important also the work that you do. I'll just give a glimpse for people who don't know you about your background. Tony is CEO of Metro One, a forward-thinking real estate development firm that has been focused on reshaping neighborhoods and building and developing sustainable cities. He was one of the founders and pioneers in Winewood, which was an incredible creative district.
Isn't it incredible?
It exists. Absolutely. And he also was one of the founders of Magic City, another incredible innovation district in Little Haiti. And beyond that, his new endeavor, which we're like thrilled and excited to be partners with, is Future of Cities, in which they are really trying to reimagine the future of cities and how we live and how we exist on this planet, and how our cities can have less impact and how it can have more of an impact on ourselves. So yeah, incredibly happy to have you here.
And the only other thing I'll add in deep gratitude is also just the beauty of the transition also between Becca and you coming together and sharing in this time and this crescendo, really seeing where we're at, looking at both shifting up and down, building resilience, coming together and making bold commitments. And the commitments that you have made and that you are stewarding, Tony, are so bold. We're so grateful and we love you so much. And we're here right alongside you.
Bold, yes. I haven't been called shy before, that's for sure. So thank you for the opportunity. I will be brief. And Becca, thank you so much for the inspiration and holding space and all the important data and the importance of action and now. And that's something that is really, really deeply resonant within my heart and the things that I'm working on. And I agree with you. We have to shift up and shift down. We have to shift. We have to work on the inner transformation before any outer transformation can happen. And I think that that's what the pandemic helped to facilitate. As difficult as it's been and as hard as it's been, I think it's created an opportunity that has created a petri dish for transformation. And through, you know, the mud, the phoenix is arising and the lotus will blossom. And we believe, but, you know, tough times are ahead. And this is the decade of action. And, you know, let me turn this off because I'm having a bit of an echo here. Hold on one second. There we go. My journey started growing up in a commune that my grandmother started in Central Florida, an interfaith ashram called Kashi Ashram. And I have one of my sisters that are participating here, Ganga Devi Braun, who is a product of that beautiful intentional community. And so many of us have gone out into the world to do this type of work. And, you know, intentional communities to many may seem glamorous, but humans are complicated. We're a complicated species. And it's really critical that, you know, we share and embrace all the diversity that we each bring to the table now and really focus on solutions. And so, you know, after my experience in Wynwood, which is an arts district that was very successful in South Florida and Miami, you know, and, you know, my experience with Magic City Innovation District, which was my first prototype of a city of the future. You know, really what I learned was what not to do. So many lessons about, you know, gentrification and climate change gentrification and deep listening and the wounds of past colonization approaches of real estate development. You know, and I come from, you know, the community background at the intersection of art, technology, and community, but I am a white male and I recognize that. And, you know, when I witnessed kind of what had happened unintentionally, you know, it really became apparent to me that I have to do everything that I can in my power to help create environments that will give capacity to the local community so they can co-create and co-design their own best outcomes. And that is really kind of the foundation of our framework that we're going to be open sourcing and that we're co-designing, which is called Regenerative Placemaking. And regenerative placemaking combines the work of regenerative development, you know, that's been going on for many, many decades through the people of Pamela Mang and Bill Reed at Regenaissance and BFI and a lot of our partners here with placemaking, but creative placemaking in a way that's not going to gentrify, or at least that's going to mitigate gentrification through, you know, equitable approach and deep listening and a different way of developing and investing and co-creating and co-designing communities. And it's really about, again, going back to empowering the local communities and giving them the capacity, investing in them, leveraging new technologies like blockchain and tokenized real estate and other methods and approaches to ownership so that we can really level the playing field and co-design regenerative communities that we all envision. And I think a lot of it has to do with rewilding ourselves and rewilding our cities. And that was our first segment that we did. And really our goal at Future of Cities is to impact the lives of 1 billion people through innovations in the built environment. How do we do that? Through demonstration projects. We're going to have to prototype. We're going to have to iterate. The built environment is going to double or triple in size over the next 30 years. And we know based on all the statistics that Becca was sharing with us, if we're using concrete and steel in our traditional building methodologies, you know, we'll accelerate this ecological catastrophe much faster than we're already at the rate that we're already even going. So it's really time for innovation, creativity, inclusion, equity, sustainability, and really bringing it all together and stop working in silos. And really the public-private partnership and the policy component is critical. And so I think, you know, in this decade of action, you know, 2020 to 2030, it's really important that we bring together, you know, all the stakeholders at all levels and work together in a concerted effort to see that we can accomplish our goals and that we can achieve, you know, net zero and net positive, you know, within the shortest period of time. But not only that, we can achieve thriving communities so that 100% of life, is thriving. We have all the solutions, we have the technology. And so I think my role as a practitioner, as an investor, as a real estate developer, and as an impact VC, is really to identify and uplift those who have solutions and ideas and bring in the creatives. I mean, what was the success of Wynwood was because of the street artists and because of Instagram and them coming together, and really that intersection between art and technology. And I think that we have to really embrace the tools that we have at our fingertips, but for good and appropriate technology, not a dystopian technological future that's run by robots, which I think all of us are pretty much in alignment on. But really, you know, our approach is not being prescriptive. You know, it's not about telling people what they need to do in their community. It's really, you know, looking to the ancient, you know, technologies and the ancient wisdom traditions of the indigenous folks, and how have they stewarded these lands for millennia? What have they done that where we've gone wrong, and how can we learn from them, and how can we deeply listen, and how can we empower the divine feminine, because the divine masculine hasn't been so divine, you know, in our history. And so I think that, you know, this is a moment of coming together. This is a moment of deep listening, and this is a moment of shifting up and shifting down. And I'm really honored to be on this journey with all of you. The work that you all are doing is so critical. And I'm really encouraged. I'm here in Ibiza, and there's such an incredible regenerative community. There's tons of regenerative agricultural practices. It's a whole different vibe than what I experienced, you know, when I used to come here during the nightlife and kind of that era. And I just, all over the world, I'm just seeing people showing up in a way that I've never seen before. And as fearful as I am of the apocalyptic, you know, possibility of our future, I'm also extremely optimistic and extremely hopeful. And I think frameworks like regenerative placemaking and the work that you all are doing is so critical. And it is about empowering the creatives and the artists. They are always the ones who are the first movers, who are the visionary, the musicians, and we need to empower their voice and let them help co-design a more regenerative future. So I don't know if there's any particular questions that Roxy, you and Nico have, or anything that you wanted to cover beyond that. But I'm very grateful again to participate and support in any way that I can.
That was so powerful, Tony. Thank you. We're like all crying in my living room right now. Just like, thank you for being such a pioneer and for seeing through your experience, your lived experience, the potential and what happens when we really do build the capacity and also give the tools and create the structures to empower those local communities to come together and have participatory design that works for them, that they feel connected to their land, to their place, to their future, and that they feel resourced. And that's what we're doing. That's why we're so perfect. It's like so beautiful to be in collaboration, because that is what regenerative design teaches us. Like we can do the great work that we care about on our own, but like we can do so much more if we build the capacity of our communities. And it is so beautiful to see at the scale and of the vision and the experience that you bring. So thank you. And thank you for telling some of your story. It's such a powerful story. We love you so much.
It's a pleasure. And thank you for all the work that you guys are doing. And any way that I can support, you know, it's truly an honor. And you know, I believe it's leaders like you that are really going to change the world. And together, you know, we can inspire a whole generation of change makers and thought leaders. And it's so encouraging. And not only just talkers, you know, and speakers and the academic, but really getting down into the ground, rolling up your sleeve, and the practical application, prototyping. Everything we do has to be a living laboratory. We have to be willing to fail, be willing to fall flat on our faces. And this is why I say to politicians and urban planners and policymakers, you know, if you want to change the world and you want to change the way that cities are built, we have to incentivize properly, and you have to align the incentives with the outcomes that we want. We want ESG outcomes. We want the best outcomes so that everybody can thrive, and you know, 100% of life can thrive. And how do we do that? Well, we have to incentivize those people who have resources so that they can have the right framework to produce the best outcomes. And I believe that somebody doing a socially and environmentally regenerative and forward project should get, more incentives and make more money than somebody who's doing a traditional capitalistic commercial real estate project. But of course, what are people going to default to? They're going to default to the lower risk option, which has been the traditional social contract that we've had before with capitalism. And we need to evolve the system, whatever you want to call it, social capitalism or the next system or whatever it is, but it's just not working. We're failing. And I think it's very abundantly clear to all of us, and as a business person and as a spiritual seeker as well, I think that we need to realize and recognize that, these things need to be tweaked. And I think that hopefully that's a role that I can play as a successful business person, as somebody who wants to make profit, but doesn't put profit above the environment or humanity. And I think that's really what we need. It's not philanthropy we're talking about, it's impact investing. And this is something that really can shift the world. I mean, the carbon economy, potentially can surpass fossil fuel economy within the next 10, 20 years, and we can accelerate that. So that's through incentives and creating, innovative systems. So all the solutions are at our fingertips. That Buckminster Fuller said it. We're just not putting our investments in the right place, and our energy and our intention. So let's all come together. Let's put our intention, our resources, our collective intelligence in the right place, and we will accelerate this regenaissance and transformation. And you all are on the tip of the spear here, and I'm honored just to be standing on your shoulders. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony. Amanda, this is a perfect segue. I want to hand it to you to also respond and welcome us into the train.
Wow, Tony. I just like hearing your words and hearing the truth that just comes through you. It's just so, it's that fuel and that feed, the feeding of the spirit, the regenerative spirit that we need to be reminded of, and we need to come together and share our prayers like this. I mean, this is that nectar moment, these nectar moments of remembering our shared future, where we're going together. And we've all had this dream, in a little bit of a different way. And it's so cool to come together and be able to share that dream and hear each other's stories, because there's another piece of the puzzle that we've just found. So thank you. Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you more and come to Ibiza. It's been a long time coming. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you guys will come visit us at our retreat center, which is next to the ashram in Florida. I'm heading back tomorrow, and we welcome you all to participate, co-create. Design Science Studio is going to be involved in some stuff, and we're doing some really interesting program around regenerative co-design and placemaking. So come find us.
Thank you, Tony. We'll be there.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Amanda. Thank you, Roxy. Take care.
Take care. Amanda. My goodness. I'm going to give you a proper introduction because you deserve it. Co-founder of the Vienna Academy of Visionary Art, and on the board of directors of COSM, which hopefully you all know is the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors from Alex and Allison Gray's Art Sanctuary in New York, which is incredible. Everyone should go visit. She has also pioneered painting retreats in eco-villages such as Paradise One, Byron Bay, and Punta Mona. She is the founder of also the Vision Train, which is also, I think, very much has been a co-creative stewarding. And it has been such an honor to have Amanda be one of the first revolutionaries, and also having the opportunity to link train cars in the ways that we have for the studio, for the Regenaissance, and for the future. And Becca Dekini, the last time we were all together, it was the three of us, and Becca reconnected Amanda and I, and look at the ripples. And when we can connect, it's amazing. So welcome, love, and please tell us where are we today?
Where are we? Well, first of all, thank you, Roxy, and thank you, crew. Thank you, everybody that has brought us to this moment that is here right now. I've come to call this the International Creative Space Station. We call it the Nonstop Vision Train Global Art Jam. And this place where you are right now is a real place. This isn't just a Zoom call. This is a real place that we have been nurturing as a gathering place to create art, to listen to each other, to learn, to expand our hearts, to expand our imaginations, to share, to create the best work we've ever created, to give away our gold, to give our gift. It's the Nonstop Vision Train Global Art Jam, started March 24th, 2020. And in an effort to bring together many of the visionaries from all over the world that I had met over the past decade plus, I put out a call, say, guys, I think this is the time. And you've heard me rap about the train for quite a while now. And this is the time when the train's gonna really leave the station. So I'm gonna share a little presentation, just a few slides, because one of the ways that I've expressed this story is through sharing, is through making pictures, making paintings of this story. And the Vision Train. This is a logo that we created of the Vision Train through a collaboration process and a detail of a painting of mine. And it all started in around 2011, 2012. I had met a certain amount of people from around the world. I had done a lot of traveling, and I had this sense, not just the sense, I knew it was something. Have you ever had this, this feeling that you just know something is coming, something is going to happen. And you don't exactly know how, you don't know exactly where, but it's happening. And this painting came through titled Regeneration. And you can see here in the detail down below, there's a train here, kind of like a rainbow train with people partying on top of it. There's a geodesic dome. I think I was sensing something coming. There's a labyrinth, and Harlan, who was a part of the first cohort, one of his epic structures, the teepees representing the indigenous, all the circus tents representing the circus experience that has been a big part of like keeping magic alive, the Tesla coils, the concerts, there's acro yogis, on and on and on. And as I painted this, I realized, that this was coming, the peace train. You've heard this song, Cat Stevens' Peace Train. And it's a narrative that is not new. It's a narrative that's been shared for a long time. And so I knew this wasn't my vision, but this is a shared vision. And this was something that I was interested in exploring and seeing how I could support in it becoming. And so I continued to explore this as I would teach workshops all over the world. This was with my class in Vienna, Austria. There was, I think, 17 of us. And I invited everybody to paint their vision. What was their vision of what was coming? What was their vision of the peace train, of the next biggest party on planet Earth? What did their perspective look like? And this was them blasting their visions out onto their canvases. And this here is actually Alicia, who's sitting right behind me, one of my main co-conspirators of the Vision Train. Here she is on her flying carpet, like literally. We paint it, we create, we dream it into being. This is real magic. And here is this grid where I see this grid of Burning Man has been a really important symbol for me and place in having access to this vision of seeing, of experiencing a new way of gathering, a new way of coming together, and has taught us so much about leaving no trace. Where I see the train who's coming right here for us, the train, the next stage is about leaving a trace of awesome. What are we going to, we're going to sow these seeds that are going to flower into this for many generations to come, with deep intention. And here it is nestled right up to the city because we need to bring it home. And the sacred fire is at the center, and the First Nations people, they are right in that first circle because we need to remember really where we come from. We need to remember all that has been lost. And this is the time. And this is another painting called Regenerating Heaven on Earth. which is really focused around origins, the origins of the stars, coming into this present existence. And at this time of the great remembering, I feel this, I sense this, just like you do. We are in this time of transition and we have no time to waste. So what piece of the puzzle are you? Which train car are you? We link our train cars together, we link our hands together, and we share our good. And this is going to create one of the most powerful movements that has ever been. This is the most powerful movement of the history of humanity, coming together to really create a shared future that is supportive for many, many generations ahead. And so when the great pandemic started last year, a few of us got together and were like, I bet this could work. There's this Zoom technology out there and maybe this could work. There's enough of us from all over the world. And so we started this structure of creating 4 different trips out of 24 hours that go 6 hours each. And we trained each other in becoming conductors and how to keep the train on the tracks. And we all came up with different themes and different workshops that we wanted to share. And we started inviting everybody. It's a pack your bags and bring your good friends too. And over this time, over 2,000 artists and participants have been on the train since its inception. And it's a place that's continuing to blossom and continuing to grow. We started a Facebook group, which was our first place of entry. And now it's continued to grow and morph into the organic space that it is currently. We've had all kinds of beautiful trips. The Creative Death Cafe with Lisette Murphy has been something that has been one of the regular trips since the beginning. Art and activism. Victor Wooten has been a guest on the train. Many, many different guests have been interviewed. The Herbal Hour, Planet Waves, that's with Patty Jacobson from Australia. Sketchbook shares, Mark Evans, so many interesting things. And exhibitions, we've also had exhibitions on the train. Mythology Cafe, Christina Lazar was doing the Mythology Cafe this morning on the train every Saturday. And we've had 3 virtual exhibitions. Mushroom Magic was our first one. I think we had over 100 people participate in that, all in tributes to the mushrooms. And Transition Art for the Regenaissance. That was our year anniversary exhibition. And we just opened one currently as a tribute to Frida Kahlo. And so here we are on this great wave of change. We're in this time where this is a painting that I'm just finishing now. And you can see here all the fires. They're at the center of all these holes that are symbolic of the extraction and the exploitation out of ignorance that has happened. And now it's time for the people to come and gather around those fires and remember each other and to see each other's faces. It's a journey of reconciliation, remembrance, and regeneration. And we're on it together. Here we are in this crashing wave of beauty, of the experience of life, to remind each other, to remind others, and to welcome them. They're invited too. Everybody's invited to get on board the train. So come join us. You know where to find us now. Keep this link stored in your cache, and we look forward to seeing you again. And I also want to say I just came from a memorial of a dear friend that passed during COVID, and I was really feeling his cheering us on. He was such a legend, and they're with us. Everyone that has passed, we are at this frontier. We are in the froth of this time, and every single one of us matters, and every single one of us has a gift to give. So I just encourage you to not give up, and to gather with us and to be a part of this next cohort. And maybe somebody else that needs to be a part of it. This is just the beginning. We're just getting started. So I love you all. Love you. So good to see you, Nico. So good to see you, Stefan. And
you make my little heart shine and I love you so much.
It's such an honor to be here with you all again.
I want you to make me a promise. Promise me that one day you're going to find an incredible CGI artist that is going to turn your paintings into virtual reality environments so we can like explore them physically.
Oh, I'm so down. Yes, that's a nice seed that's been planted, and we've got a bunch of witnesses here too now. So.
Well, thank you so much. It's always an honor to be here in the Vision Train and to see through your eyes. It's magnificent and warm.
Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you all in real life on the train, because this is a real train. There's going to be many of them, but we're going to be there. So right now we're on our little train cars on Zoom, but see you there on the real train.
Thank you so much. And I have with me a very special person. Oh, people. Yeah, I was going to bring you guys right after, but like, come over. Is there more people here? No, just you two?
Just the two of them today.
This is lovely. Let me introduce you. I have the utmost honor and pleasure to introduce you to Olivia and Ganga, which were like through the entire first cohort, two beams of light and hope and beauty and incredible moments. And I was so happy to have you two there. And it made me even happier that through that process, you ended up getting together with some other revolutionaries and starting to co-create and co-creating something that is dear to my heart, because as we were saying before, we really believe that spaces will play a very important role into the world that is coming. We need to, at the beginning of the pandemic, I had this kind of feeling and vision. I was thinking, this idea of Buckminster Fuller that encouraged everybody to be a trim tab. And a trim tab is the smallest part of a system that has the greatest impact. On a plane is the flaps, and on a ship is the tail that really changes the course of the entire thing. And I was like, how can I be a trim tab? What is it that we can do? And the thing that came to mind is, well, we can create spaces that are really well designed so we can teach people what's possible, and we can use them to gather, and we can use them to get all these incredible souls that are creating projects and trying to fix the planet together to get inspired and to do more and create these safe heavens. And so it was so good to see this vision that Olivia brought into the cohort of the Alchemy Center, and that then a few other incredible people joined to bring to life. And so the Alchemy Center, they're going to tell you more about it, but it's a comprehensive anticipatory design agency, of course, focusing on supporting land-based communities and projects to take their place within the living web of the Regenaissance. The Alchemy Center uses the Intangible Framework developed by them, and is also known as the alchemy of wasted time. And so they design physical spaces, communal experiences, and creative brand strategies to be conducive to life and to states of pondering and playing and practicing and daydreaming. And hopefully within the next few years, we're going to be able to see the Alchemy Center as a real center come to life, and many other Alchemy centers inspired by these principles, also sparkle. And with that, I'll leave the stage to both of you. Thank you so much for your energy and soul.
Oh my God, Nico. Hey. I have to just say I'm so excited to be here, like with you all again. It's awesome. I'm going to share my screen here, so bear with me for just a second, and we will be right there. And like Nico said, we are the Alchemy Center, and I'm so excited to be here with my dear friend and co-worker and just amazing human being, Ganga, to talk about what we do and to give you a little bit of an idea of what we've been up to in the last few months. The Alchemy Center is an organization that was started during COVID last year. My name is Olivia. I'm the founder of the Alchemy Center, and I'm based out of Portland, Oregon. I'm actually currently on the Olympic Peninsula in Northwest Washington in a coffee shop. So sorry about the background noise, and thanks for hanging in there. I do many different things, and one of the things that I do is creative production and connecting humans, making collaboration happen, and being a visionary. And then there's Ganga.
Yes, and as Tony mentioned a few minutes ago, I was raised in the same community as him in Florida. So I have that background, which has led me to be very, very passionate about the integrity and the possibilities and the need for comprehensive design for communities. So within the Alchemy Center, I am an ontological designer, I am a ritualist, and I'm a community cultivator. And as a team, we work very well together. And as a comprehensive anticipatory design agency, we like to say that generalism is our specialty. We are really, really passionate about looking at the big picture and designing as comprehensively as possible.
Exactly. And like Nico said, one of the things that we do is we design and produce experiences and environments for regenerative land and community projects and immersive events. One of the things that is really important to our work is that we really intentionally focus on ontological strategy. In all of our work, we also elevate the arts and visionary architecture. And we're incredibly passionate about powerful intentional design for environments, as well as something we recently started calling community therapy. Just to speak to the greater movement that we're all part of, we are actually incredibly optimistic about the future, and we're really just excited and honored to be contributing to this movement with our work. And one of the leverage points that is really at the base of everything that we do is to design with a state of being in mind, which for us starts with a framework and with collaboration. And in terms of collaboration, to speak to that a little bit, is that we have developed an incredible ecosystem of collaborators, both individuals and organizations, that we're able to pull in for different projects. For example, we are collaborating in really beautiful conversations with Paulo Gregory, who we met through the Design Science Studio as well. We have had really amazing collaboration with Michael Robinson a few weeks ago, who we also met through Design Science Studio. And one of our most incredible collaborators, well, they're all incredible, but they all have different roles, if you know what I mean. One of those is the organization Architecture from Guildworks, who is focusing on visionary fabric structures. And we speak more about that in a second. And states of being, what does that mean, Ganga?
So this is the Intangible Framework, also known as the Alchemy of Wasted Time, which helps us to shift out of the colonial and capitalistic pressures of urgency and productivity and shift into our dynamic and really deeply needed unique gifts, which we can only really access when we're operating in many different types of states throughout our days and throughout our life cycles. So we use this matrix as the grounding and design parameters for everything we do, from designing workshops and conferences to partnering with architects and ecosystem regenerators to design physical places. We believe that designing for the states of being of pondering, playing, daydreaming, and practicing is subversive to the dominant paradigm of extraction culture, which we have all internalized and which is unconsciously reproduced in so much that is created in our world. It is domination and extraction culture, which we are seeking to make obsolete in everything that we design. And this is reflected in the ways that we operate as an organization, how we interact with one another, as well as the ways that we originally came together.
And oops, and we met through in the Design Science Studio during the pandemic. This is our beautiful team, Olivia, Ganga, and Casey and Peter. And there's something about the pandemic that Ganga is going to talk about.
Yes, yeah. So, obviously the pandemic has been an incredibly painful and time of intense grief and tremendous loss. And also, I think something that many of us who were in the Design Science Studio and other forms of incubators and forms of connection have found is that this time of going inward and this time of going inside and connecting, not so much with what is physically around us, but with people who we have shared visions and shared affinity and shared dharmic work with in the world, has been really uniquely potentiated during this time. And it's like all of the imaginal cells that were waking up over time. We all love the metaphor of the caterpillar preparing for metamorphosis. It was almost like the walls of the pandemic created the conditions for many of those imaginal cells to finally encounter one another and meet and begin to activate one another's potential, and to share that message further. And that was really a huge ecosystem service that the Design Science Studio offered to us as a group. We found each other, and we were immediately able to drop into systems of deep trust and deep collaboration and real confidence in one another's discernment and integrity in order to allow us to really work together well.
Exactly. And when we talk about working together, we want to give you guys a better idea of what that actually means. So we're going to walk you through 2 projects that we completed in the last few months. The first one is an engagement that we were able to dive into with ecosystem restoration camps.
Yes, and having ecosystem restoration camps as one of our first clients as a collective team was a tremendous honor and a really amazing indication of what we want to be doing being really affirmed by our ecosystem. So we were contracted by ecosystem restoration camps to support a core group of their North American camp leads. The challenge that these camp leaders were facing was a need for infrastructure and built environments to support the human activity that was contributing to the healing of these sites. We took this challenge and we worked with these leaders in a focused 2-part educational workshop to nurture a comprehensive anticipatory design approach to their infrastructure needs at their ecosystem restoration camps. And it was amazing. By the end of the second workshop, there was a real tangible sense of relief and excitement among these essential leaders of on-the-ground regenerative work. And there was a clear path forward for each of them to create the conditions needed for truly life-supporting next stage of their restoration and regeneration service to our biosphere. And that was like just such a tremendous honor. And I'm really looking forward to further work with them as an organization. Really, really gratifying work.
Yeah. And then the other project I'm going to share with you about, I'm really excited about it. It is with an organization called Kasaba that is led by the beautiful Karen Flavel. Kasaba is an organization that builds remote work and life villages for people to thrive. And we were asked by her to develop the concept for a community structure on her very first location on a 40-acre property in Mendocino County. And we collaborated on this project with our architects, Guildworks, and the incredibly talented Mar Ricketts. And I'm super excited to show you some images of what we came up with. This is the mock-up of the community center, which is a yoga shala, a sacred space, and a gathering environment for people to come together. You can see here in the middle, and then to the right is what we call the hearth, which is a place for a permaculture food forest, as well as a really beautiful gathering space together with the community that is living out there. And we designed this place really specifically to incorporate the very expansive views that is present on the site. It's a beautiful, it's on a hill, it's overseeing the hills of Mendocino all the way to the coast. And one of the most beautiful elements that we designed for was to make sure people can see the sunset. Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is another view of what this is going to be.
Yes. And yeah, a big element of our passion for this project was this opportunity to create an expansive indoor-outdoor space for people to gather in circle, in ceremony, in council, in practice, and also in awe of the natural world. And as Olivia mentioned, this space is on a west-facing hillside. And so we really wanted to make sure that it was as conducive as possible for daily gatherings for the incredible sunsets that happen on this land. understand. This is a part of regenerative design principles is working from place and understanding what are the unique gifts of this place and how can they contribute to harmony with all life forms that are there, which was a huge part of our design of this environment. And that daily communal ritual of a group of people every day gathering together to watch the sunset gives rise to a deep experience of love and awe and care and gratitude for the living work, which, as we all know, is so essential for us moving through our ecological grief and into really love-driven and clear-sighted solutions for the healing of this world. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so we are, we continuously, repeat these principles as the most important values of everything that we do, regeneration and integrity, and the integrity of the regenerative movement. We are, deeply, deeply committed to this. And that means being dynamically curious about what areas are we and the organizations we are a part of and the ways that we operate out of integrity with the values and the ethos that we are seeking to create in this world, and being continuously proactive in that self-examination and in allowing what we design to inform us and to tell us what is working and what isn't working, what is contributing to the regeneration of our life systems, and what is contributing to extraction. We have continuously refreshing integrity processes within our organization, and it's how we work with everyone, and that might include you. We're constantly looking for not only clients but collaborators and peers in this field. We are so committed to shifting out of competition and into collaboration with people who are people and organizations that are committed to the same principles that we are, that are curious about what is possible with human spaces that are designed by humans for the support of all of life. And yeah, so if you're a potential collaborator that feels aligned with our work, please follow up with us. We'd love to get to know you.
Exactly. And also, if you want to just stay in the loop in general, we have a newsletter sign up made possible through Squarespace on our website. So please visit our website if you want to learn more, if you want to stay in touch, if you want to follow us along. There's a lot more to the Alchemy Center, which we did not have time to talk about. Like Nico alluded to, there is a very active vision to eventually build our own place, and we would be happy to tell you more about this one-on-one. You can email us directly at hello@alchemycenter.com. And with that, thank you so much, Design Science Studio, for having us here today. It's been such an honor.
Yes, and also if you'd like to be apprised of what we're up to and be a part of our ever-growing, ever-living web, I will place our website in the chat so it's accessible to you to follow up with. Thank you so much.
Woo-hoo! Yes. It is so incredible to both see you and to also see how much has been blossoming in your collective collaborative work, and I am just so in awe, and thank you for sharing your story, and it is just beautiful to witness and to be collaborating with the two of you, and to have had you contribute so much and continue to contribute so much to this community. We're so excited to continue to propel and uplift and share your brilliant voices with the world more and more, and honored to be on this path together.
Thank you.
All right, brilliant beings. We're running a little late, so we're gonna try to speed it up. And if you need to, just shake it out, get some water. It's like on a marathon of awesomeness right now. I am really, really, really excited to introduce the next panel. But before I do, I just want you all to know that if you were trying to go to the upcycling workshop, the Zoom link was broken. So we're going to put the correct Zoom link in the chat, and it is amazing. Melissa Lockwood, who's one of the Revolutionaries, she's a zero waste fashion designer. And so she's helping you reimagine, rethink the way that you create and repurpose your clothing. Fashion industry is one of the leading contributors to climate change. It is terrible. So definitely go check it out if you're interested in that. I just put it in the chat. Thank you, Ganga and Olivia. Let me just take a collective breath. Exhale all your air out. Inhale. And exhale. I am stoked to bring the next few humans up. One of them I get to hang out with every single week, which is epic. Nikki Selkin, who is the Creative Development Director at Gray Area. She's one of the core partners for the Design Science Studio. And Stephen and Kelly were actually both revolutionaries in the first cohort. And it is really interesting that right before the pandemic hit, we got to have experience together where we created something called The End of You. I'm gonna let Nikki kick it off. And it is just so great to see you all and get to tell the story together today.
Hey, Roxy, can you hear me pretty well? All right.
Yeah, a little quiet, but pretty good.
Oh, it's a little quiet? Okay, I have like a mic. Maybe I can turn it up. Hi, everybody. I'm Nikki Selkin. I am the Creative Development Director at Gray Area, which is an art and technology nonprofit that functions out of a single screen cinema in the Mission District in San Francisco, with a mission to create social change through the use or through connecting artists with new technologies and working with artists with new technologies to create change. So a lot of what we do is both presenting live performances, workshops, art shows, as well as like actually, yeah. And then is also, we have a space in our theater for people to work out of. So we have like a resident incubators. We have an international art residency program. We have a music studio and all kinds of stuff, as well as, you know, ongoing classes and workshops. So there's a lot going on there. And one of the things we do is partner with other organizations. So what we were talking about today is this show called The End of You that was part of something called the Experiential Space Research Lab that was funded by a grant from the Knight Foundation we got. And it launched in 2019. And then literally the show closed like moments before the pandemic happened. It was an immersive art show that lasted a month. So I'm going to show a quick video about the show, just so instead of keep talking about it, because I know we're short on time. And so you guys can watch the video and then we'll talk to a couple of the artists, Kelly, Sky, and Stephen Standridge. So let me share my screen. 1 second. Okay. All right.
Welcome, human. Can you hear us? Listen, we have a story to share with you.
Taking these objects out of context and displaying them next to each other in scenarios that you would never see them, the next step is to investigate your behaviors. What we're trying to get you to think about is like why they're here, why we use them, why we've created them. Is this object me? Who am I without it?
This is an immersive game of life. It's basically an immersive reimagining of Conway's Game of Life. But the simulation itself is already living, and this is putting it into the space and making it interactive and responsive to human presence. Your presence may alter it in very persistent ways, but it too has a life of its own that will change what you experience in turn.
When we talk about the environment and our relationship to it, I think it's really important to remember that these aren't abstract concepts, right? There's no better case study than Hunter's Point, because what makes it dangerous isn't actually visible. They found another radioactive object. This whole project is an attempt to visualize that radiation. These lights are actually completely made of the headlines from the SF Bayview, but also they're lit with the data from that object that was found last September.
My art has always included some aspect of nature, some aspect of geometry. It was inspired by a lot of experiences playing outside, playing with my own sense of space, playing with how I engage with the world around me. I play a lot with the user's perception of space. I try to bring nature into technology and try to approach human relationship with the environment through technology.
I think that's the role of the artist, is to point at things that are present in our realities but aren't always something we tune into. Immersive installation is one of these opportunities to really take you out of your usual experience and to disorient you or reorient you to a new way of thinking. I wanted to allow people to think beyond their ego and really experience that feeling as you connect to the larger living systems around you.
As your awareness ascends beyond your body, your breath is drawn into the roots of trees. We breathe together. Our human matters dissolve into memory. We are human and tree and fungus and microbe. You are the living skin of earth. None of us hold one form forever. Together, we make the world anew. Whether you remember or not, we remember you.
I'm gonna pause it there just because I know we're short on time. But I will put the URL for the webpage for the project into the chat, so you can go check it out and see all the artists. There was quite a few. How many artists were there? Like
12 mainly.
12 working on it, and the whole theme was living systems. So we worked with the folks from Gaian Systems and Spherical Studios to really dive into the theme and create the work. And yeah, so we just wanted to talk to Stephen and Kelly. Roxy and I came up with a question ahead of time. What was that question? I know
I got it. I have the question. Cool. So if I can, there we go. So we would love, maybe Stephen, do you want to start? If you could describe the topics that you were exploring through the end of you and how you ended up translating those into a collaborative immersive installation.
Hi, I'm Stephen, everyone. So my work has always been like environments, like 360-degree landscapes and like sound environments. And during the end of you, what was happening in the background as we were developing this is that California had seen its like worst wildfire season ever. The Australian bushfires were happening like, mid-process. And what I noticed was that it was really hard for me to connect with like the emotional reality of like all these headlines I was seeing. Like when you see one fire headline, it's like kind of traumatic and you can like, connect with the human and ecological impact. But when you see multiple, it's like very disassociating. You almost have like a cognitive dissonance to protect yourself from like the reality. And so with the piece I created, the Uncanny Forest, I attempted to just create a space that like illustrated all the fires that were happening all around us and showing this like 360 environment, like go from like these extreme wet seasons to these extreme dry seasons to these like actual fires. in hopes to give like people some sort of like space to process like the grief and the loss of these emotional realities. This I brought to life with a series of projections throughout the space, and a soundtrack that played throughout the space. None of it which was to draw us like any specific attention. It was kind of just like embedded throughout the space to almost like set a stage that reflected the real life stage that was happening throughout this, when this installation was actually present. With Yulia Pinkusevich and also David McConville, I ended up like having there was an installation where we like kind of combined like Yulia's idea with David's and mine to like create this like really cool mortality meditation, where it was just this like running background forest that, you know, would go through this like new cycle of like wetness, dryness, and then ultimately fire, as you're hearing like the universe or the planet tell you like, it's okay, guess what, the world goes through these cycles. Questions are like, how does this impact humanity? You know, what are we going to do about it? So the hope was to like integrate this fire narrative into like this larger narrative of the planet, and to give people like a way to or a space to connect with like the emotional reality of our changing planet. So yeah, that was basically the intent of the piece. Kelly, did you want to share yours?
Sure. Thanks, Stephen. And hi, everybody. My name's Kelly. I'm happy to be here with such great people, all thinking along the same lines. Yeah, so I worked on a piece in the show called The Room of Relations. It was actually focused on the rights of nature movement, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. The rights of nature movement started with a historic change in the Ecuadorian constitution, and now has really become a global movement that's being led by indigenous people, not surprisingly, all around the world. And I got really fascinated in the movement as this kind of rupture to this disastrous legal system that gives corporations the same rights as human beings, but not rivers or mountains. And so in a way to kind of flip that ridiculous policy on its head, we now have activists out there actually getting expanded rights of personhood for rivers and mountains all over the world. So I started researching this and realizing it was building momentum, and it had a lot of potential to systematically start to cause some change. And so I ended up, you can see behind me, I ended up making this multi-screen projection where I gathered imagery from all the different sites of expanded personhood. And I also gathered, it's funny you mentioned headlines, Stephen, because I gathered headlines around the world of different sites having expanded rights granted, et cetera. And almost in an opposite way, it's like to give this sense of a building momentum of a collective action. And so seeing those on the screen, one after the next, kind of my intention was to give people the feeling that something's happening here, we need to pay attention to it. Of course, you know, one of the challenges is it's still a corrupt legal system we're dealing with. So, you know, implementation of this is not perfect. So it's kind of this interesting topic where it's like, it both needs to be celebrated and critiqued simultaneously to move it forward, to move the rights of nature forward, you know? So, yeah, so I put that together, and I had some reading materials from all the different sites. I mean, we're talking about like Mount Taranaki in New Zealand, even Lake Erie and the Colorado River now. Species of wild rice of the Ojibwe tribe are now, you know, having rights, and they can actually stand for themselves in court now. So like before, you had to prove that if a river was being damaged, it was hurting humans. But now you don't. It's like that river's being damaged. You can go and say like, so it's an interesting movement that's definitely worth being aware of. And so yeah, I put together the imagery, and I even worked with Roxy on a supplement too, where we had a wall that was a family portrait wall, but it featured our expanded family members like fish and vultures, and even a glacier I think we had in there, Roxy, and just a way to kind of also recognize our expanded family.
in that. So yeah, that was my contribution, and it was a really beautiful and challenging and wonderful experience overall, as these things are. Thanks for inviting me, Roxy, today. It's great to be here.
Thank you, Roxy.
Yes, of course. Thank you both. I think the story of the interview didn't get to be told as much as I hoped it would. And so it's obviously such a perfect group to kind of connect with and share and showcase how these ideas can be translated not only into individual works, but collaborative works, not without challenges, but definitely figured out a way to embody that interbeing with all its hiccups, and it turned out really incredible. David McConville and Dawn of Spherical. David was the previous board chair for BFI for 12 years, and his first initiative really with Spherical and Guidance Systems was the big initiative was this one. So it's a really cool full circle.
Yeah, and just on that note, the fact that we did this and it went so well, like now that we're in theory reopening, we have a show up right now in a surround cinema screen that was actually used with a Game of Life piece in the show that we have up right now. Anyway, we are going to be doing a piece with called Numina with a lot of people in the community, the regenerative and like immersive arts community, that should be opening in the fall in October at Gray Area. So, and the theme is it's not like in the same way researched as this was with, but it's definitely environmentally themed and immersive. So I think that trend and I noticed also, Roxy, that the Unreal Garden folks are coming back to showcase that again. So I think we're starting to see, and also just with the pandemic, like that environmental and health and, nature oriented art is not going anywhere. And in fact, I think we're going to see a lot more of it in immersive spaces all over the US and the world, probably, as it's the most urgent, thing facing us right now.
Yeah. Oh, well said, Nikki. And for those of you who don't know, Nikki, in addition to being the creative development director on this project, was definitely building, soldering, helping problem solve. Certainly,
thank goodness for Nikki. We held it together.
Yeah, I sort of creative directed the whole thing. So, but that often includes staying up all night and sewing a 70-foot curtain or whatever was needed. So there's nothing glamorous, I think, in making a giant art show. So.
Yeah, it was so powerful. Like my contribution as an advisor, I was just so committed. Like the work that we were doing was so relevant to everything that I love and care about. Just like, how can I help? And definitely was up for some long random nights making stuff happen. But I wish the show was up longer, and I look forward to bringing parts of it back to life. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned it might have been a super spreader event, but anyway, because it was like that's the joke around the office. No, it is. I don't think it was. Well, who knows?
It was right before.
It was right before.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that one yet.
Yeah, that's our little joke we have at work.
Okay, we had timed admission before it was cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, any final closing thoughts that you all want to share? Inspiring words or is it?
I'm going to put the link to our website so you guys can come see it and come see whatever. We have another show up right now called Neomythos, which is new works in a surround cinema and a huge screen that we almost never set up. It's very cool. The artists are from Japan and China. So I encourage everyone, if you have time and you want to come to the Mission District to watch a show, Neomythos is coming up and it should be very cool. So
I'll be there.
Yeah.
And Kelly and Stephen, if you can put your links in the chat too, that would be great. So people can follow up with the work.
Yeah, great. Do that.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Appreciate you.
Bye.
All right, y'all. We are a little bit late, but we're chugging right along. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to have an info session about the next cohort. Yay! Simultaneously, Melissa's still teaching her upcycling workshop. So if you have already been in the cohort, you want to do something else, you can also explore the world of Regenera. There are 7 different worlds to explore, which are amazing. So what we're going to do is, if you're watching out in the live stream world, we're going to close the stream and then we're going to reopen it and kick off the next session. Shake it off, get yourself a glass of water, and we'll tell you all about the next cohort. Yay! So excited. Huh? Yeah, like 3 minutes. We'll start again. Okay, but everyone who's in the Zoom room, you just stay because we're here already, and we'll just be right back. I'm gonna play some music. So I'm actually gonna play a really beautiful song by one of our dear friends, David Block. It is a very poignant song called Another Earth. And I want to make sure the stream is off because they might get mad at us on the World Wide Web if it's not. Vince, do you hear me? Vince. Yeah, it's Gangambia. Here it goes.